always have the topic of growth in every conversation with council, but the idea of as we grow as a city, as more residents move in, then we need to have more employees, right, to provide services. And employees, in many cases, maybe not field staff as a whole, but employees need a place to work from. So space needs in the city really trigger the conversation of what's next. And council thought at that time, maybe it is time for us to talk about the topic of, is it time for a new city hall, right? Has Buckeye changed to a point where it is time for us to evolve from the place where we are and grow into something else that says, hey, Buckeye has arrived to a new phase of its life. And also, of course, being a space solution for staff. So council asked staff to move forward with a project in which we would go through the exercise of envisioning a city hall. Is it the right time to build a new city hall? What role would that city hall play in a space solution, as well as its function today and in the future, right? Technology and other things are impacting just how people work and do things. When would that city hall need to be built? What it would look like, and where would it be, right? And so we have all these questions floating out there in the air, and we emphatically say none of those questions have been answered. So the first phase of this exercise is just to go through the process of understanding how different stakeholders feel about this idea. We have engaged council in conversations. We have engaged staff in those conversations. We have engaged the public in those conversations. And we're reaching out to other stakeholders like developers and so on that work with us on a regular basis. So this is part of that process. And we're reaching out to the community for some input. We've had several meetings, one last night, today, and then in a couple of weeks we head up north to Festival to get their input, and Tartesso as well. And so when council asked us to go through this process, the first thing that we did is we asked ourselves, wow, we don't envision and build city halls every day. We build roads, we build water and wastewater facilities, we build all kinds of infrastructure, but this is not what we do every day. So we need to engage experts that could help us through that. So we went out there and through a competitive process, selected a firm, the Smith Group, that has an amazing track record of helping organizations, cities, to go through this process. And so they are holding our hand and leading us through this, and we don't know what the outcome will be, right? There are polarizing views of what needs to happen next, and we're taking all of those views and opinions and thoughts and ideas, and we are going to package them and have additional conversations with council and go from there. You know, we thank you again for being here. I wish we could have a lot more citizens. We are seeking information through surveys and other venues as well, but the more engaged the public is, the better decisions we can make. So with that, I'll pass it on to the Smith Group, who is going to give you a little bit of history and information, and then take you guys through an exercise.
Madeline here. We're both design strategists at the Smith Group, as Javier said, and what that means is we work with clients to understand what it is that they need for the future. There's never a clear answer, so the way we come up with suggestions is we engage with different stakeholders in the process. That's where we are here today. We've done this process with clients across industries and with public organizations as well. So this is a area in which we have quite a bit of expertise and confidence. And we don't have any preconceived notions or ideas for you here today. We do want to talk about a few things. We have a short presentation, and then we're going to get up and do some workshop. We want to hear from you. That's what, if you didn't grab supplies yet, we'll get you some supplies so you have them when we do the activities. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of City Hall. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why now. Javier alluded to it. We're going to show you some data about why we're talking about this now. And we have some thought starters that are possibilities for the future. We want to hear from you what works, what doesn't work, and we're going to get through that as we do these activities through the room. And that's the part where we hear from you. This is not us talking at you. This presentation is going to be really short. We mostly want to be listening to you and getting your input. So as you are likely familiar, Buckeye is a very large city. And there's one city hall. And it has been in generally the same place over its history, Buckeye's history. Does anyone here know how many city halls Buckeye has had in its history? I should say town or city hall. Any guesses? That's a good guess. That's right. It's 5. Uh-huh. Were you calculating them in your head? Oh, okay. Clever. That's right, 5. So it has not always been in the same location over its history. And in fact, the building that City Hall is in today was not necessarily built to be a city hall. It was a private development that was going to be mixed use, retail on the bottom floor. Some different stories about whether it was supposed to be office or residential on the upper floors. Nonetheless, that development stalled in 2008-9 period when the financial crisis happened. The upper right photo shows you a little bit peek back in time in 2008 when they were moving a farmhouse to make way for the new building. So the development stalled, and the city saw an opportunity to acquire the building and turn that into a city hall. And that's what it has been since 2009. Actually, it started out as a town hall, I should say, because in 2013, Buckeye went from a town to a city, and there is a photo that you can see where they are changing that signage. And then in 2022, the city ran out of space in the city hall. It used to have all of its admin services in that one location. And they created the space here at the landing, and they moved about 100 employees over here. And we know that the city is going to keep growing. This might not be the best solution for the city, so we need to look at what is possible for the future as Buckeye continues to grow. How are we going to solve for that? Speaking of growth, in some reports, you are the #1 fastest growing city in the country, which is pretty impressive. And that has been going on for several years now and is projected to go on for many, many more, where you'll be 2.5 times the population in 2040 as you are today. So that's pretty substantial. And when you have that many people, you need to provide services to them. So also the employee base has to grow. Not at the same rate, not 1 for 1, but it still grows at some relationship to that population growth. And we need a place for these employees to sit when they come on board to serve the community. So this is the problem that we need to solve for today. At the same time as that's happening, the purpose of City Hall is also changing. We heard, and this is a little preview from the survey. Has anyone taken the resident survey here tonight? Okay, well, you still can, so don't worry. I encourage you to do that because we are looking at those answers. They're really important for us to get that feedback from the community. As you can see, we're not getting a big turnout here tonight, so we want to make sure that we're getting all the voices represented across the city. But looking at a little preview of what we saw, this is from 2 weeks ago when we were looking at what we had received at that point, and we continue to keep getting more and more responses. Not many people are going to the City Hall. Most people are going, residents are going once or less a year. And why are they going? They're going for community programs, they are going to attend council meetings, and they're going to pay their bills. Another thing that we saw under the other category was passports, was also a popular one for why people are coming in person. But when we asked, well, how would you like to interact with the city? What we saw is that most of those transactional services, paying your bills, paying your utilities, even permits, that people prefer that to be digital and virtual so that they don't have to come here in person, they don't have to come during office hours, they can do it when it's convenient for them. Even council meetings, more than 50% of the respondents said that they would like to attend or have the option to attend those virtually as well. But where everyone aligned was what they want to do in person is community programs, that community gathering piece. So if we think about that, if people are doing most of their transactions online in 5, 10 years from now, then what is the purpose of City Hall? What is what is the role that does that play? Is that a place where people come together and build community? And we were curious, what are some of these community programs that people like to attend? There's quite a wide variety, and they don't all happen at City Hall today. Some of them happen near City Hall. There's some of these celebrations. We also saw in the survey that some people who don't live near downtown area feel a little bit left out of some of these community programs as well. So there's this desire for community programs, but maybe it's not accessible to everybody in the city today. Why are we discussing this now? Well, to summarize, there's a lot of growth anticipated, as we saw in that chart, 2.5 times. That's not going to happen tomorrow, right? We're talking many, many years out, but we need to plan for the future. And at the same time, the center of gravity is shifting in the city. As more developments come online and they get built and people move in, that is becoming a little bit more distributed to the city. A lot of it's north, a lot of it west, right? It changes every year depending on when these master plans are built. But more or less, that center of gravity is shifting. So that idea of what is convenient to most people is changing as well as that center of gravity changes. And the service delivery, I alluded to this, already you can do a lot of things online, and there's that Buckeye app I saw today where you can do many things. Not everybody's embraced that technology, but more and more people will, and more things will be available digitally online. That is just the nature of where we are in the technology right now. So you can imagine that we need to be thinking about that as well, not just how residents interact with the city, but also how employees will work in the future with the different technological advances. So this is why we need to start thinking about this today, because we know that in 5-10 years, that's when we need to we'll have an answer for these things. And it takes time. It takes time to, if you're going to find a new location, it takes time to find that land. It takes time to put infrastructure and utilities in. If we're going to renovate the existing city hall, we need time to plan for that as well. Maybe the city has to buy property to expand the current city hall. So that's why we're talking about it today, even though it's a little bit in the future from where we are today.
Great. So talking about projects and planning, there's a lot of projects and a lot of planning that's happening. We're told you have 135 city-funded projects. This is one of many. Healthy budget for all of those projects. Some examples of those are, I know there's a downtown revitalization study that is underway to consider what the future of downtown looks like, with the goal to improve and revitalize that zone. Other projects go around transportation, of course, roads, other infrastructure, things that are not as flashy, or you can see things that even happen in the grounds, like water and sewer, but they're just as important to be building that foundation for future growth. And these aren't like these aren't binary. It's not like you only get one. There's room for many. It's not an either or, it's really an and situation. So looking at all of the priorities and doing them all at once, maybe not the full list of the wish list, but there's definitely room to be tackling more than one priority at a time. So here's where we are in the process. As Carrie mentioned, and probably as you heard in her talk, we don't have the answers today. We're still very much in the data gathering phase. Learning about the history of Buckeye, learning about the buildings and properties currently here, how the city employees are using them, where's the growth going to happen, both for city employees and for the population. And then we're gathering that information through the survey, through data from the city, through these workshops, employee workshops as well, the survey. We're coming all of those pieces of data together and then really doing some conceptual planning. And this might not even be, come up with a rendering of a building. The conceptual plan might be, here are the dots on the map, and maybe here's about how big they are. Maybe this is what it looks like in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. That might be as far as we get with this conceptual planning. We're still trying to figure that out as well. So talking about where that strategy, what those dots on the map might look like, here's where we are today. We have City Hall in downtown, been there since 2009. And then when that was outgrown, we moved into this building. Not everybody, about 100 staff members came here. This is a warehouse, basically. Everything down that way is an industrial warehouse that has been turned into the nicest office space I've seen in a warehouse. And people are working out of here, and they are able to hire folks to support you as citizens of the town, of the city here, and provide those city services in these 2 locations for the administrative staff. There's, of course, other locations when it comes to police and fire and community services, but these are kind of the 2 primary bifurcated hubs, we would call them, of the city administrative services. Now, tomorrow it's going to look different. It has to look different because you're growing and going to be bigger, and at some point you're even going to outgrow what you have here. And so we're thinking about what that could look like, all different potentials. One, it's centralized. It's all in one place. We don't know where, but it would have all of these different services in it: the council chamber, the administrative services, community programs. Maybe it's co-located with something that it's not today. We see a lot of towns that co-locate either their courts or a library or a community rec center. Maybe that's all in one giant civic campus. We have to wrap our brain around how big that might be before we can start talking about, well, where should that go? Because now it's of a certain size. Or another idea that we're thinking about is a strategy called hub and spoke. It works to have one central place, council, city hall there, administrative services, and then you have other city services kind of distributed throughout. How many spokes? Where are they? What services are there? These are all things we would have to determine in this model to figure out what that would look like and if that would be a viable solution. Or here's another thought. What if it was we separate out some of the ceremonial elements, the city hall, council chambers, council members' offices from an administrative hub, and then have other city services distributed throughout the 644 square miles that is Buckeye. So as you can see, these are 4 completely different location strategy models, and we are not sure which one of these was a good fit. In fact, it probably is going to be something that's not even up on the slide, right? It's a combination of them, or it's something we haven't thought of. So this is really where we are in the process if we're laying our cards on the table. All of these are current options, and except we know it has to change somehow because of the growth, unless we just kind of keep growing where we are and figure that out as well, which is another potential option. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. Questions about what we've already talked about? Okay, great. So, okay, we're going to do a workshop with the 3 of you. We're going to make it a little more intimate. But keep an open mind, speak freely. No ideas are bad ideas. This is a get it all on the table kind of thing. We have 5 boards or stations. They each kind of cover a different topic, so we can go through that. And we're really thinking big picture, right? We're not talking carpet samples today. Obviously, that's not really in the cards. We're really thinking bigger picture. So, great. None of these rules apply. Nope, because that's not how we're going to run this session today. So, yeah, with that said, Carrie is setting up the first board in the first session, and I think we might turn our mics off. Oh, if you are listening on Facebook virtually, there is a link, I think, in the post where you can participate in these exercises. Stop there.